Roger Fisher here, founding guitarist of rock group Heart. Yeah, first concert. One of the first concerts was in May 1968, Cream at Eagles Auditorium in Seattle. This 18-year-old kid comes in not knowing what to expect, has already fallen in love with Eric Clapton, but upon hearing a couple songs, I recognize that these are the top rock musicians on the planet, and the way that they gel is just incredible. So I climb up on the stage right in front of Eric and I sit there, and nobody kicks me off, and I stay there for the rest of the concert. And if that's not inspiring, I don't know what is. But the mastery and the fluidity of their show, and above all, fish swimming in a school, so like-minded and so quickly ready to change and adapt to each other's direction that they're going musically. It was fantastic. Indelible, inspirational imprint on this soul.
My first concert was Elton John at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. 14 years old. My aunt took me. She was mad because he used to wear these really wild outfits with, last time she'd seen him, he had like space hanging all over him with these balls all over the place. And when we saw him, he had just a derby and a jacket made out of sequins, head to toe. He was killer. He was killer. He stomped that place. Coincidentally, as of this taping, we are going to be headlining the Cow Palace in my Pink Floyd cover band in April. How about that? What a wild ride, right? From seeing Elton John to headlining the place. I hope the dressing rooms are okay. Second concert, Blue Oyster Cult. Blue Oyster Cult. Back before the FCC told them they had to take some of their lasers down before they ripped everybody's retinas out. Third concert, Cal Jam 2. Ted Nugent, Aerosmith. My uncle had just got the first Van Halen record. We listened to it all the way down there from Reno. That's where I lived. And all I could think the whole time was, how come Van Halen's not playing? Anyways, yeah, Elton John. Pretty cool.
Well, people think, since I'm a piano player, my first concert was Elton John or Billy Joel or Vanessa Carlton. But no, it was Joe Satriani, damn it. The Vanessa Carlton of guitar. It was Flying in the Blue Dream tour. I went with my buddy Ed, who bought the cassette of that. And at home, I had the CDs of Dreaming Number 11 and Surfing with the Alien. And I at that tour, I did end up buying a shirt, but it's not a Flying in a Blue Dream shirt. It was the Surfing with the Alien shirt at the Flying in a Blue Dream tour. And here's what I remember. I believe there's a reason for everything. I remember Stu Ham doing like Beethoven. That's Beethoven, by the way. It's Symphony number 11. Oh, we stood up. Everybody stood up. It was like Catholic Mass. Everybody stood up when he came out. And then we didn't know that everybody sat down. Where was our first concert? Anyways, we were pelted with ice. And then we sat down. So if anybody was at that Flying in a Blue Dream concert in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I was one of those kids in the front standing up that you threw ice at. And it was a kick-ass concert. And I think Joe sings great. Maybe it's the lyrics. I like the message of I Believe, but imagine if he wrote lyrics to Horde of Locusts from Dreaming Number 11. Should I do like what Joni Mitchell did with her Mingus album and write a whole album of Satriani songs with lyrics? Surfing with the alien. You know what else I remember was in the parking ramp, there we were without parents in a car in a parking ramp. We listened to Meat Puppets 2. I'm telling you, there was a lot of guitar in my childhood, and there still is today. And Satch, if you're watching, wow. You got the licks, the shredding. Oh, your grooves are great. And how about those riffs? So anyways, me, Mark Mallman's first concert was not piano, it was guitar. One of the great shredders of the 20th century, Satch flying in a Blue Dream tour. Yes, there was singing. What I remember most is being pelted with ice, listening to Me Puppets 2 in the parking ramp, and this.
To be completely honest, I actually don't remember my first rock concert anymore. I just remember my parents told me that I saw Suzi Quatro when I was really, really, really young. So taking the fact that I don't even know a song by her anymore means that this first real rock concert didn't affect me at all, I think. But a big impact were some live DVDs I was watching. And I was inspired by the DVD Sick Bombs and Happy Endings by Sum 41 to ultimately play electric guitar. So without this live concert, I won't even be here, which is totally crazy. Yeah, when I started playing guitar, the first rock concert I've been to was with my father, my sister, and her then boyfriend. And it was a concert called Beat Beat Beat, where some older bands performed, for example, The Sweet, Slade, and also Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick, and Titch. And I was growing up with this music since my father is a huge Beatles, Rolling Stones fan. Everything during that period of time was something I always listened to when I was in the car traveling with my parents. And so it was like, it made me really happy to see this is real, you know what I mean? I mean, it sounds maybe stupid, but it's there. You can still listen to this music, and it's like, it was like totally inspiring me to see these people still being around, still doing music, and it was such a fantastic evening. I just felt pure joy, I think, in my first rock concert that I attended.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick because I've told this story before, but my very first rock concert I ever attended was Kiss during their Hot in the Shade tour. I grew up really loving Kiss because at a very early age, my cousin Jamie brought over Kiss Alive, and he and I used to just sit and listen to the record, and then we would pretend to play instruments and put on these concerts in my living room. It was a lot of fun. So when my friend Andy asked me if I wanted to go see the band live, I could not believe it. You know, this was a lot of years after I was first initially introduced to them by my cousin, but I was a huge fan. I remember loving so much of their music, and I just wanted to see them live for the first time instead of listening to Kiss Alive and just imagining what it was like. So because it was my first concert, I didn't know what to expect. I just tried to wear all black and, you know, sort of fit in with everybody. But we got to the show, walked into the stadium, and we took our seats. And I recall seeing the huge background. It was kind of covered up, but it looked like there was something really big going on behind this curtain. And so the first opening band was Slaughter. And they came out and Tim Kelly hit this chord. And I remember him doing the toggle switch trick where you could shut the sound off really fast, on and off really fast. And the sound was so powerful, my first concert, remember, that it was pounding me in the chest. I couldn't believe how loud it was. And then throughout Slaughter's entire set, I could not believe the lights, the sound, the energy of the crowd, the energy of the band. After them, Faster Pussycat came out, and I don't really remember too much about them, to tell you the truth. They weren't really my favorite band at the time, so I didn't pay as much attention as I did to Slaughter, because my sister was a huge Slaughter fan, so I knew all their music because she would play it all the time. But then after Faster Pussycat got done, it was time for Kiss, and I got the chills. I just didn't know what to expect. I was so excited. All of a sudden, the background comes to life, and it's this giant sphinx head. Suddenly, the mouth opens, and these laser beams shoot out of it, and you see the silhouette of the band, and then they come down. And the first song, I will never forget it, just because it became my new favorite Kiss song for a long time, was I Stole Your Love. And this is before they slowed things down, kind of like they do today. I think they play to clicks now and stuff. But back then, Eric Carr was just on fire, man. He was just playing with so much energy, and the band was just on fire. During the show, I didn't really know what to do. I looked around since it was my first show. I'm like, am I supposed to be freaking out? What's going on? My friend Andy just kept headbanging. And so I thought, okay, I guess we're just supposed to headbang at concerts. So he and I are sitting there headbanging to Kiss, which was kind of weird on a few songs. No, we didn't headbang to Beth. But to a lot of the other songs, it was kind of fun. I was dizzy afterwards, and I couldn't believe how I felt. I was super energized, And to go from listening to Kiss Alive, the album, to seeing them live, even though they had different members. By the way, Bruce Kulick was in that band. And it's really crazy because now he's on some of my videos and stuff like that. So I always have to pinch myself. I can't believe it's real. But yeah, he was one of the first guitar players I ever saw play live. And of course, the band was very tight around that era. So it was really cool to see that.
My first concert experience was the Rolling Stones on their Steel Wheels tour. My dad took me, I was just a kid, it was like in 1989, and it was at Clemson, South Carolina, at the Death Valley Stadium. So it was a pretty big concert to start with. My dad was a big Stones fan, so he took me down there. And what I was actually really excited about was the Living Colour was opening for them. So technically Living Colour is the first band I've ever saw perform live, like in a real national act and stuff. And we were literally 50-yard line in the middle of the field, packed tens of thousands of people around us, and then obviously in the stands, it's about 100,000 people there. And it's a huge impression on a kid. And this, one major memory is like an inspiring moment that happened when Living Colour were playing. They did a up-close shot, might have been during like the Cult of Personality solo or whatever, but it was, they did an up-close shot of Vernon Reid's hands. Like there's this huge video screen behind them playing, and then this big shot, and he's just burning. And seriously, the fingers just look like this. It just looked like a blur, and it was very inspiring yet frightening at the same time that a human being could do that with their hands. It was that image is just blazoned in my brain since then, more than anything else in the concert. Of course, the Stones came out. They were amazing, an amazing stage, amazing show. It was a hell of a place to start your concert career, but I think it was a pretty good one.
So my first rock band experience was actually just seeing some kids from the school play at the school dance. And I was a drummer at the time, and I had been, I guess, prescribed musical instruments as a cure for my behavioral difficulties, what they call ADD or ADHD, attention deficit disorder. So I had been playing drums to try and improve my behavior and get me to concentrate more, which was working. But then I saw this kid at the school dance get up and play Santana's Smooth and sing, played guitar and sing. And it was like one of those lightning bolt moments where I saw the attention he was getting from everyone, and I guess I was somehow craving that attention and validation, and in a positive way. He wasn't getting it for doing something reckless or stupid or being in trouble. That people's eyes were transfixed on his voice and his guitar playing. And it was pretty much the next day wanted to quit drums and get a guitar, and that's 20-something years ago. I've never looked back. So yeah, that was probably my first like rock band experience that really not only changed my life, but changed my career path and changed my behavior, and just one of those sort of tangential moments that changed everything for me.
The Art of Guitar family, how you doing? My name is Mike Michael. I play in a band called The Orange Goodness from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Shout out to Mike for having me on. My first rock show. I still have the ticket stub. The Kinks, Cincinnati Gardens. I was in middle school. I was nervous. I went with my friend Sean Powell, who was an experienced concert goer at 7th or 8th grade, whatever we were in. So he took me to the Kinks, and I was like, how loud does it get? And he goes, it's pretty loud, but it's pretty awesome. So we're waiting there for the show, and the Kinks come on. And they must have been in their 40s at the time. And they came on smoking hot, and it was amazing. And the crowd went nuts. I've never experienced anything like that. Went beyond like a football game. So I was enthralled. I was hooked. But what I learned and what I was inspired by is crowd participation, and how circular that energy is, and how important it is as a performer to include the audience, because that's what a live show is about, playing for an audience. Thank you.
I'm not 100% sure what my first concert was, but one of the first ones I remember attending on my own with friends was seeing Papa Roach in a really small venue, and it was a really fun time. We were pretty close to the stage, but kind of off the side on an elevated platform, and and I remember the band having a ton of energy and it was just really fun. But I remember one specific moment when the lead singer of the band kind of crowd walked or crowd surfed over to where we were in the elevated platform. He was just right in front of us performing, which was cool. But then he made his way over to the wall directly next to us, and I can't remember exactly if he punched the wall or he headbutted it while headbanging, but when he left and went back to the stage, there was a visible hole in the wall of the venue. I'm still not totally sure if he actually meant to leave a hole in the wall, because I assume the venue wasn't super happy about that, but I guess it showed that he had a ton of energy while performing. Overall though, I just remember it being a really great experience. It was really cool getting to see songs I listened to so many times perform live, and it inspired me to attend many concerts in the future.
Hey there guys, it's your good buddy Uncle Ben Eller here to tell you guys a story about my first legit big ol' rock show, which is seeing Meshuggah open for Tool here in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum on, I think it was like November 5th, 2002. I got into that band probably about 2001 because I'd read some articles in like Guitar One magazine where they were mentioned and just thought they sounded like they'd be a cool band to check out. And I remember getting Destroy, Race, Improve and then like Chaos Fear and just getting obsessed. I was blown away. I had no idea what was going on with the music. I just knew that something was going on there that I really enjoyed. And so whenever we heard that they were coming to Knoxville, Tennessee, and that they were coming with Tool, no less, it was like, we have to find a way to go to this show. Because by then, my older brother Noah was really into the band, and my good buddy Mitch was also really into Meshuggah at that point. I think we were like the three people in our entire group of friends that had even heard of Meshuggah. It's kind of weird because, you know, like nowadays Meshuggah is like a household name, right? Like they really kind of came in and forever changed the metal landscape. But back then, you got to remember, like early 2000s, most of my friends didn't even have the internet. Social media wasn't a thing. We all found out about bands through words of mouth and diving through the CD bins and all that jazz. So at that time, hardly anybody knew Meshuggah, much less was obsessed with them like we were. So we heard they were coming to Knoxville, and I think actually I want to say my stepdad actually bought us tickets to go see it because he knew how stoked we were about it. And I remember waiting in line and just seeing this, you know, sea of Tool t-shirts, obviously, because everybody loves Tool, and talking to some of the people we were in line with about how excited we were to see Meshuggah. And everybody there was like, yeah, I don't even know who that is. What's that band? You know, what do they do? Nobody we talked to had ever even heard Meshuggah, so they did not know what they were in for. So we got our seats and stuff, and I'll never forget they opened up with Elastic, which is the last track off of Chaos Fear, which is one of the most just like mind-bogglingly brutal songs ever. And I remember like looking up and down the aisles of the Coliseum and seeing like everybody like headbanging or like tapping their feet at like totally different tempos because nobody knew where the beat to anything was. Again, you know, nowadays with the gent thing, I think we're all a little bit more rhythmically sophisticated, but back then it was like a whole Coliseum of people, none of which knew where beat number one was. It's pretty amazing. And they just rocked it totally stripped down, totally raw dog. They didn't even have like a banner on stage. They didn't have a crazy light show. I think that's back when they were using like the Line 6 Pod Pros like off stage, so they didn't even have like speaker cabinets on stage. It was just this like alien machine, you know, musical assault force just doing these unbelievably technical, complicated things and just blowing our minds. Their set was incredible. They were touring the Nothing record at that time, and they played Nebulous live, which I still think is in the top 3 heaviest things I have ever heard in my entire life, because I played it like slowed down and really sludgy. And then Tool came out after that, and I mean, it's Tool. It's legendary, right? They had a super elaborate stage show. They had all these video monitors and props and like these big floating orbs and all that jazz. Their set was really, really crazy. But, you know, again, we were there to see Meshuggah. No offense to Tool. Obviously, they're amazing. But we were there to see the opening act, and it was absolutely mind-boggling.
Hey, this is Tiffany with the band Rebel Queens. My first rock concert was No Doubt, and Weezer opened And did it inspire me? Yeah, it was amazing. Gwen Stefani just like totally captured the whole room. I had never seen anything like that before. Like my jaw was on the floor the entire concert. And I mean, honestly, that probably set the tone for like my whole life, and let alone my music career. But it was life altering.
My first arena show was the Kiss Animalized tour in 1984. I was a shy 12-year-old kid. I remember my parents dropping me and my brother off and just setting us loose on the city of St. Paul and in this vivid world of rock and roll, and it was insane. I mean, parking lots cranking different Kiss tunes, people dressed in full garb, and you had to walk up the ramp to get in. You're standing in line with everybody else, all these strangers, all there for the same reason. It was awesome, just the power, and of course the show when they hit the stage. I mean, never heard anything that loud, and the spectacle, the whole thing was just off the charts. It wasn't really until I saw Woodstock on MTV, they played the whole thing uncut in like 1986, and I bought a guitar the following week, and that was definitively the moment that pushed me over the edge to pursue music and say, I have to do this. But if it wasn't for the first show and all those things leading up to that moment, they were all inspiring moments leading up to this decision. And I gotta say, it took me a long time once I started playing guitar to figure out just how much effort it takes to get to that level. And the appreciation that I gained just drove me further to push further and further. And it's like anything else worth doing. I mean, there's no shortcuts. It's time and patience, perseverance, and practice. I'll be doing that the rest of my life. It's a lifelong journey. I hope other people are inspired to do the same thing, because I think music is the most universal language that we all have, that we all can share together in, and everyone can be inspired by music more than almost anything I can think of. So, God bless music.
So the first concert I went to was the Eagles with Pablo Cruz and Steve Miller, the old Met Stadium. Somewhere in there was a Kiss concert. I think it was the Dynasty Tour. And then I saw Van Halen on the World Vacation Tour on a hot July or August night. They had sold out 2 nights at the Roy Wilkins Auditorium. It was the Van Halen 2 tour. We had second row tickets on Eddie's side of the stage, and that was it. That changed my whole life. When I saw Eddie play, I said, that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. And, thanks to Eddie, I wound up having a pretty successful career in music. It wasn't always great. You have your good days, you have your bad days. But for the most part, eventually it landed me on the ESP Guitars artist page under our band, and 4 record deals. So I owe a career to Eddie Van Halen, who made me make a decision if I was going to be an entertainment lawyer or a rock star. Well, I didn't become either, but it sure was fun.
First rock concert I went to was Clash of the Titans. This was June 1991. I was 15 years old. I went there with Mike and Corey of the Almighty Sanctus as well, and Tony Merchant, who is unaccredited video footage of all of our shows. Wonderful show. That show was Anthrax, Megadeth, Alice in Chains, and you also had Slayer. And at that time, it was really cool. I only knew one song by Alice in Chains at that time, which was Man in the Box. And they blew my mind. So that show, I was really, really impressed with Alice in Chains and started to follow the band after. Still to this day, one of my favorite songs is Sea of Sorrow by them. Fantastic. The other performer I thought did the best in that show was Slayer. They were tight, and you could tell they were doing their thing for a long time. The thing I liked that Anthrax did was they were good with the crowd. That inspired me to want to be a better live musician. When you go see a band and they can perform and sound great and do all of these things, that was like, dude, that's where I want to be.
Yo, 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 how's it going, brothers and sisters of rock and roll? This is Rob Mills, former Diamond Head guitarist, bringing this to you from sunny Chiang Mai here in Thailand. Take a look at that view. Awesome. The Dushitep Mountains there. So, what was my first gig, my first concert that I went to, that I attended? I think it was, pretty sure it was the Monsters of Rock in 1990. We had 5 of the great bands at the time. Whitesnake were headlining. We had Poison. Not that I was a massive fan of Poison. Thunder, who were a pretty good bluesy band. Who else was there? Aerosmith. That was pretty cool because Aerosmith, they brought on Jimmy Page for a little guest spot. So that was amazing. I can't remember who the other band was. Who was it? The Choir Boys. The Choir Boys, that was it, yeah. So that was Monsters of Rock, Donington, 1990 in England. That was the first gig I went to. It was an amazing experience. Obviously, Whitesnake headlining. I had Steve Vai on guitar at the time. And I'd only just picked up a guitar about 6 months earlier. And to see him with his heart-shaped guitar and doing this amazing solo. I mean, if you haven't heard the solo, he did like a solo spot, like for about 10 minutes in the middle of the set. And it's the stuff of legend. So if you haven't already, I think you'll find that on YouTube or something. But, so yeah, that was my first great gig experience. My first, you know, rock gig, basically. What was I, 14 years old? Peace out, brothers.